Hey guys, how's it going? I'm gonna roll on the audio here soon. First off, as always, recycle your plastics, folks. All right, we're about to roll on the audio here. All right. Hey guys, how you living? Good, good, good. Always. I'm gonna say that probably exactly the same way at the very beginning of the episode as well, which maybe some of the folks on the video will get to see. Who knows? You know how it goes. All right, so I'm a little hoarse. Need to preserve the voice a little bit, so this may not be as long of an episode as I would like. But one of the most successful episodes so far was the ask things that you shouldn't say to or ask a musician, and uh, so my sister Sarah had this idea that maybe I could do an episode of things that people shouldn't say to folks who have like mental health issues, and uh, I posted on Facebook that I was maybe gonna do a thing on anxiety a little bit, so the doing, and I'm coming to a head in all of this in a second, but first off, again, recycle your plastics, ladies and gentlemen. That's twice for those in video, once for those in audio. It's never enough though, never enough. Anyway, so I posted on Facebook that I was going to be doing the doing an episode geared towards anxiety, and I got a lot of hits, and it ended up doing really well, and I got a few messages back saying, "Hey man, um, this person wants to," or I'm going to get all this. Um, so it seems to be a pretty popular topic amongst people on Facebook. And more than likely, I'm going to be doing a set of these podcasts, like these episodes, is going to be, I'm going to be doing the whole things that you shouldn't say to the mental health and diving into the human mind, as I've stated in the previous um, posts on the Facebook. Let me first off, before we go any further, and this and do that. Okay, I had to turn on the do not disturb on the old iPhone there so that we don't get bombarded with messages from Brian Jordan. All right. So, like I said, we'll more than likely be doing several parts of this episode with guests. You guys remember Brother Jeff Thomas, who was in episode number 18, and his wife Jen may be interested in doing a part, being a part of one of these episodes. Alicia Brown, as I mentioned before, her husband Tyler made our cover art. Brother Tyler Brown. Alicia is definitely wanting to be part of this because she has bukus of research and information on mental health and how we deal with it in this country, and all sorts of like psychological reasonings behind why people behave certain ways, and that's going to be really interesting. So and it's been tough here lately scheduling guests because Sundays are usually my day off, and I've been on lately on a lot of Sundays. I've actually got a gig tonight at Garden City Pier at 8:30, so got to be leaving here in about an hour and a half or so. So going to be keeping this episode pretty short so I can get it all published and released. So there you go, Blue Wrench Brian. Good to see you, homie. Brian Jordan up in the studio today. I hope I can divulge that information. I mean, you posted it on the Instagram, I believe, or the YouTube rather. Anyway, um, we are going to be moving more towards having guests over the summer, and I've asked a few people who are already on board, and I'm trying to get a good, maybe have 1 or 2 guests a month. Brother Graham Dickinson is doing a series of web shorts, and I think he'd be good to have on here. Me and Smitty have been having some good talks on the way to and from gigs. He's going to be back on in a couple weeks. Brother Seth Scolara, who hosts trivia at Mellow Mushroom on Thursdays, is interested. I know that who knows but me and Noah Byrne have been talking back and forth about certain things lately. So there may be a resurgence of Sunset Grill episodes coming your way soon. So yeah, there is looking forward to all this over the next few months, and you should be too. So there's that. All right. So this talk was inspired by my awesome sister, Sarah, who should also be here for an episode down at the Sunset. Tell them about it, Brian Jordan. Sarah should also be here for an episode because she's come up with a lot of really good ideas for episodes so far, and she's a listener as well. So she came up for the idea for this episode, which is a very large can of worms. And this episode is probably not even going to get the can opener out of the drawer as far as this can of worms goes. But in this day and age where people are offended by everything and everybody has to sort of watch what they say around everybody because you never know who you're going to offend, you have to watch what you say. In most cases, like your racial slurs or your just general negative, like your general negative comments or whatever, you can pretty much usually in most cases use common sense to tell you what you can and can't say to somebody. I mean, we all have a brain and most of us have a filter. Some of us don't. I'm not very good at the filter thing, which makes it, honestly, if you ask me, a little easier to sort of change your mental makeup, if you will, because if everything that comes in your mind is going to come out of your mouth, you may as well clean up your mind so you don't have to worry about anything negative falling out. If you catch my drift. Did you hear how I said that? Like a typhon? Sup, guys? See, now I've offended somebody who has a lisp. I apologize for my ignorance on this situation. See, welcome to 2018, folks. All right. Anyway, so you have to watch what you say. And like I said, in most cases, these racial slurs or any insensitive banter really takes nothing more than a common sense to not offend anybody, really. And I hear a lot of folks out there saying, fuck their feelings, snowflake, blah, blah, blah. And listen, I don't like where the country's at no more than you do. Okay? I don't like where the country's at no more than you do. But we're in a different world now. Like, we got to deal with this. We got to find a way to deal with this. Like, I mean, adjusting to new situations is difficult. And I'll be the first to admit that I am the world's worst to adjusting to new situations. I hate it. It's the worst thing ever. I'm not a fan of change. I like for things to stay the same. I'm a Ron Swanson. I don't enjoy things when they change a lot. So there's that. I'm the world's worst when it comes to this. But when you're in this situation, you're sort of forced to, or else you're the odd person out. And there's nothing wrong being the odd man out, but sometimes it's probably better to be the kind of person who can get along with just about anybody around them. So there's this rabbi who tells this story about a lobster. So now we're getting to the interesting part, right? So like I say, adjusting to new situations is difficult and it's uncomfortable. So there's this rabbi who tells this story about a lobster who says the lobster grows into this shell. Well, then the shell gets too tight and it gets uncomfortable and it just doesn't it doesn't like where it is, so it sheds this shell because the shell's too tight and it got uncomfortable, and it grew a new shell. And then after it grew into this new shell and it started to grow even more, this next shell got tight and uncomfortable. So it shed that shell and grew a new one, process however many times over this happens over a lobster's lifetime. Now, the rabbi made the analogy that if this lobster had never felt that bit of discomfort or pain or whatever it was that it felt, it would have never shed that shell and it would have never gotten to the next level of, and you get what I mean, the analogy in being that if we don't take these moments of discomfort and where maybe we're not as comfortable as we'd like to be, or we're offended by something that somebody else is doing. And I love how a lot of the people who were bitching about the snowflake side of people, which I don't side with either of these. I'm totally in the middle. I don't fucks with that. Anyway, I totally hear a lot of these people saying, "Oh, well, you go off somewhere else and be offended." Well, the fact that people are taking up arms on this whole, I heard about a lot of people in Virginia Beach or whatever, were hanging like Confederate flags across the overpass on the interstate as people were headed to bike week and shit like that, or maybe North Carolina it was. I'm not sure. It's somewhere nearby. And I just feel like, is that not coming from the same thing that you're speaking out against? And just like this old point that I always try to make, like how everybody on the extreme right and extreme left are all basically the same. And me and Smitty talked about that last night. And I'm getting a little off base here, and I'm sorry for that, but that, you know how these things go. So anyway, the whole situation of adjusting to new situations and dealing with changes in the world around you is something that we all have to learn how to do, whether we like it or not. It's just something that has to be done. Recycle your plastics. Goodness, I'm hoarse. These next 2 gigs are going to be rough, man. Going to be doing a lot of low songs. Yes, I keep getting off track. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so going back to this story about the rabbi and the lobster, we are this lobster. These situations that are around us are making us uncomfortable, and whether these people want to admit it or not, just because you are supporting the right and not the left doesn't mean that you also don't get offended and take up arms in your keyboards and your iPhones and go to Facebook and talk about your issues and how you feel about them. So basically, these folks are cut from the same cloth, and they don't know. They're I guess they're too caught up in their own feelings to see that. But that's that point is an innocent bystander to the actual point we're trying to make here. So anyway, we have to follow nature in this situation. Use this discomfort as a chance to grow. There are going to be certain things that someone might say to someone who has actual anxiety that they have no clue shouldn't be said. Now, I'm calling this episode the first 5 things because we're obviously going to be doing several more of these with guests who will give their input on these things. So this first one is going to be my personal 5 things that maybe shouldn't be said to someone like me during a panic attack, or just for me personally. I'm not saying someone like me, I'm saying 5 things for me. Those of you out there who have actual anxiety, I'm going to be sharing all of this on Facebook over the next couple days. Be honest with me about if you agree or disagree with any of the things that I'm saying should and shouldn't be said, or give your ideas as well. And obviously, this is going to be, like I keep saying, a reoccurring thing. So if you want to be a part of this, get up with me, and we'll have you on an episode. All right. So number one thing that you shouldn't say to someone having a panic attack, from my point of view, is, yeah, I get nervous sometimes too. And I get it. I get people getting nervous and shit, but nervous is to anxiety what crushed ice is to an iceberg. Like, it's hard to compare, or how crushed ice is to an ice machine. That's actually probably a better analogy. Nervous is a piece of ice. Anxiety is the ice machine continuously dumping nervous onto a person. And I may have mentioned before that I never had anxiety at all until I started drinking heavily. Is about the time that I can go like pinpoint when it started happening. I became dependent on something I didn't realize I was dependent upon, and I'm not saying that this is the only way that somebody can come across anxiety. I'm just saying that this was my culprit, the whole drinking too much thing. But the first time I had one was at Bubba's Love Shack before a gig, and I didn't know what was happening. I was freaking out, and I was breathing heavy, and I had no clue what was going on. I thought I was having a heart attack. Well, Adam Justice noticed it immediately, and he said, "You're having a panic attack." And I had no idea what was going on. I really didn't know what to do. I was literally losing my shit. And when Adam Justice he said, "All right, you're having a panic attack." And anybody who knows Adam Justice knows that's all the help that I got was like, "Hey man, you're having one of these things that I talk about all the time. That's the worst thing that I've ever felt in my life. Good luck." So I'm like, fuck. But thankfully, I calmed down a little bit later, and I ended up having the gig, and we ended up doing the gig, and I was flipping out, couldn't figure out what was going on, and it was literally like I thought I was having a fucking heart attack. So I've already gone through that before. I'm not spending any more time on that. But I never felt anything like it. The world was wrong. Nothing could ever be right again. So don't ever compare being nervous to having anxiety, because it's literally fucking mountains to anthills difference. But number two thing to not say, R.I.P. Brother Shaggy. I'm looking at a picture of him on my refrigerator right now. I still got Brother Shaggy on the refrigerator from his celebration of life. He used to always go around saying, "Stop being such a little bitch." And I hear you, homie. When someone's having a panic attack, I would say the number two thing to not say to someone is, "Stop being a little bitch." I once thought that this was an acceptable response to this occasion. I have said this before to Adam Justice while he was telling me he was having one, and I hadn't had one yet. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know how serious and real this shit was. So, like I said, R.I.P. Shaggy. But maybe in the case of somebody having a panic attack, it's probably not the best idea to tell them to stop being a little bitch. And I would say that 90% of the folks who have never had anxiety will use those words. Like 90% of the people who have never had a panic attack or had legitimate anxiety issues will say, "Oh, well, they're just being a little bitch. They're just, oh, he was freaking out because uh blah blah." I'm gonna use Adam Justice. I'm sorry, Adam. Love you, mean it. He was freaking out because he couldn't sit in the front seat and he had a panic attack, which is real, by the way. He was flipping out because he couldn't sit in the front seat and he was having a panic attack. Oh, he was just being a little bitch. He's just being a little bitch. And I 100%. If you're hearing that, he couldn't sit in the front seat and he was freaking out and he had a panic attack. That sounds like somebody being a little bitch. And of course, Adam's kind of a bitch, but we all kind of are in our own way. And obviously, I'm saying this into YouTube like I would say it, Adam, anyway, because I have, and we know this. But still, I understand now after I've had a panic attack that sometimes it's not just him being a bitch, or it's like a diva or whatever you princess, whatever you want to call it. It's not any of that. It is legit like the world is wrong and won't be right. So, once again, number two thing not to say to someone having a panic attack: stop being such a little bitch. R.I.P. Shaggy. Love you, brother. One for the homie. I'm not dumping water out into my floor, but R.I.P., brother. Recycle your plastics. This gig's gonna be ridiculous without a voice. GC Pier tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Brother GT Grub on the scene. Oh man, they've redone the Garden City Pier. It's fucking awesome up there. You guys should come check it out tonight from 8:30 to 11:30, baby. Keeping it groovy on the tops. On the top of the hour, baby. The eights on the eights. Okay, number three thing you shouldn't say to someone having a panic attack: why is this happening? Usually, during a panic attack, I can't process thoughts. Thoughts aren't processing well. So adding another question on top of all of the other things that are going on, like imagine a panic attack for someone who's never had one before as being, and I'm going to try to throw in as many analogies as I can into this episode so that maybe people will understand this better if they've never had one. Imagine it as a dump truck full of questions that have no answers. One more question on top of all that is just the proverbial terrible icing on top of the worst cake ever baked. And oh, that was good. I'm writing that one down. But it's recorded. Hey-o. It's like 2018's version of writing it down is just record, right? Anyway, yeah. So why is this happening is not something that we're going to be able to, is not something we're going to be able to answer right at that moment. Now, if this thing happens in public and where people can actually witness us having this panic attack, we're already going to explain ourselves at the end of this anyway, because we don't want people to think we're a crazy person. You know, we want to be like, okay, this happened. I was, my mind wasn't working right at that time. Like we're self-conscious about how we're viewed after this thing takes place. So we're going to want to make sure that people understand that we're not psychos. We want to give you an explanation of why that happened. So why is this happening? Just give it a minute. We're going to tell you anyway. All right. Number 4, it's all in your head. Well, no shit. There's nothing better. There's nothing better to tell a person that's having a mini mental breakdown that they're crazy, because whether you're saying that or not, just it's all in your head. Is when we're in this panic attack mode and we're literally not thinking clearly, our brains are not functioning the way that they should be. Whenever that's going on and whenever that's happening, we are hearing everything that you say with a negative tone just about. And I say that me from, as I've said, this is my uh, from my viewpoint. It may be different from other folks who have anxiety. I'm just talking about from the viewpoint of my anxiety. So, like, yeah, it's all in my head, but whenever you say it's all in your head, from my viewpoint, I'm seeing a quote unquote normal person looking at a quote unquote crazy person saying, I'm normal and you're not. I'm normal and you're crazy. I'm in the same situation standing next to you right now, and I'm not reacting like you're reacting. So I'm normal and you're crazy. And I know that's not what you're saying, but I can assure you that that's what we hear. Or I keep saying we, and I should say I. That's what I hear whenever this situation goes on, and it's all in your head. Well, yeah, I know it's all in my head, but of course it's all in your head, Harry. Why does that mean it's not real? Dumbledore, tell him, Albus. but but seriously, yes, we understand that it's all in our head, but uh, we don't need you making us feel like we're a crazy person, because no doubt that's what we feel like. So, all right, number 5. Don't tell me about the time you had a panic attack and what caused it. If I'm in the middle of a panic attack, don't sit there and say, "Oh man, I had one the other day, man. It was it was bad, dude. I woke up in the middle of the night. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath." And as you're saying all of these words, it's actually happening to us, and it's intensifying our situation. And it doesn't help at all, and it allows us to project ourselves into your situation, all resulting in a huge volcano of anxiety. And you may think you're reaching common ground with a person, telling a story of common interest, that, oh, you're having a panic attack. Is usually people's immediate response to say, oh, I have had something like this similar happen to me, so I can relate to you. Well, when a person is having a panic attack, they're literally unstable at that point. And this is, in our minds, just a one-up situation on your behalf. It's like, okay, I'm having a panic attack, so you're trying to one-up me with your panic attack. So, like I said, we're mentally unstable at this point, and anything that can be misunderstood will be misunderstood. I can assure you of that. That we are on a heightened sense of awareness, and no matter what you say, we're going to be putting it through a few more filters at that time than it would normally go through, because anxiety ups your, and for me, like I continue to say, for me, it continues to up your amount of mental situations, if that makes any sense. Like, like, you're, imagine it like a Google Chrome bar on your computer, and anxiety just continues to open tabs. It continues to open tabs, henceforth slowing down all of the rest of the all the other websites. Which is, I'm trying, like I said, I'm trying to throw as many analogies in here as I can to get people who don't know this to understand better. But imagine it like that, continuously opening up tabs and not being able to shut that down, not being able to stop that at all. It's just an overload of your brain. Like, you're just you're done, and you're mentally unstable at that point. So anything that you're gonna say is gonna be thrown through uh, as many filters as you have at that point, because instead of being able to mentally organize something and say, okay, well, this thought usually goes through these filters, it's going through all of them. So anything that you're going to say is going to be misunderstood at that point. So heads up, just be very, very careful when someone's having a panic attack at how you handle that. Now, some things that I think would help if you ever have to calm somebody down having an attack is just literally be with them. Just literally be there. There you go, some little turkey sandwich. Just literally be with them. Tell them they got this. Tell them they're capable of conquering this situation in their brain. Empower them. Give them the strength that they're obviously lacking in a positive way. Like erase all negativity. Because by all means, if you're close, by all means, if you're close like me and Adam and Smitty, after all this calms down, say, yeah, stop being a little bitch. Break up the tension a little bit with laughter as much as you can. Like after something that intense occurs, it's good to break the tension after, but just be careful how you do it, and just try to, I don't know, try. Obviously, if you hang out with somebody more than a couple times, you're gonna basically know them. You'll know what they're about and what their strengths and weaknesses are and what they like and don't like. Literally just try to adapt to that person the best that you can without being, one, overbearing, excuse me, and two, don't try to fix their situation, because a panic attack is something that is, once again, this word's coming up, unstable. It's very unstable. You don't know how it's going to affect somebody, and you trying to help could intensify a situation. So literally just being there with somebody is, from my viewpoint, maybe one of the better things that you could do. So anyway, this is a short episode. Like I said, actually, I don't know. I've been trying to keep these things around a half hour, so this may be normal. I am going to be bringing in a few other people who are going to continue these talks. So there will more than likely be a second, third, fourth, fifth, who knows how many things. The second 5 things you shouldn't say to someone having a panic attack. Maybe more than 5. These conversations could go on for hours, and I am 100% on board with that. But these are just 5 things that I think personally people shouldn't say to, at least people having anxiety. And by all means, folks out there, give me feedback on what you guys think about these things, or what you guys think about how accurate these things are that you should and shouldn't do. So anyway, there's that. So things to listen to and watch from this episode. Father John Misty had a new album that I got yesterday called God's Favorite Customer. It is a very, very good record. He shouts out Jason Isbell in one of his songs, Mr. Tillman. OutKast, AT-Aliens, in honor of Charlie Culberson, with a walk-off hit today against the Nationals, taking 3 out of 4 in that series with them. AT-Aliens, the original, which it should be called Stank On Ya Dome instead of Mercedes-Benz Superdome. I don't like that. Stank On Ya Dome. So I'm going to still call it Stank On Ya Dome, the Falcon Stadium. OutKast, AT-Aliens. The band, Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages is a live show, and it has a very, very, very good horn arrangement on this album. It's awesome. Check it out, the band. So Father John Misty, God's Favorite Customer, OutKast, AT-Aliens, the band, Rock of Ages. Watch Howard Stern's episode on My Next Guest. I watched that the other day. It was very good. Howard Stern is a lot like a bunch of people I know personally, which is very funny, and I think he'd be a lot like a lot of people you know personally, so you should watch just to see. Safe on Netflix, featuring Michael C. Hall from Dexter, who's got this new show, and I haven't started it yet, but I've heard all the good things, so check that out. And I may have said this movie before, but I watched it again the other night, and it's so good that everybody should watch it twice. The Big Short. Watch The Big Short. It's really awesome. Check that out. Yeah, that's all I got for you today. Happy Sunday. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. I'll see you again on Wednesday with another episode. We may be doing the second 5 things you shouldn't say to someone having a panic attack on Wednesday. Who knows? Depends on whether we get a guest lined up or not. I'm probably not going to be doing another one of these alone because I've already given my take on this. I want someone else's next. So, yeah, there's that. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate you. We finished the week in double digits. That is a huge deal. Thank you guys so much for listening. It truly means a lot. Leave us reviews on the iTunes and on the Podomatic. Leave us reviews so that I can begin to get ratings from iTunes. That iTunes doesn't give you certain ratings until you have X amount of reviews or whatever. So there's that. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Go to our GoFundMe. Hook us up with some dollars. We gonna make this thing a whole shitload better for you. So do that. Love you. Mean it. Get yourself on the producer list. Peace, bitches. All right. Looks like the video froze up there. But that doesn't matter because we still got audio going. Later, guys.